The morning sun cast long shadows across the USS Yorktown's flight deck as Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chun adjusted her grip on the sniper rifle. Salt spray from the choppy Mediterranean waters misted across her face, but her hands remained steady. 3 years of intensive training had led to this moment, though she never imagined it would unfold quite like this. Admiral Harrison Wells stood behind the observation platform, his weathered face creased with skepticism. At 62, he had seen countless young officers come through the ranks, each one convinced they could revolutionize naval warfare. Most burned out before making any real impact. Sarah Chun, however, had caught his attention for all the wrong reasons. "This is ridiculous, Commander," Admiral Wells muttered to his aide, Captain Rodriguez. "A precision shooting demonstration in these conditions? The deck is rolling at 15 degrees, wind speed is gusting at 20 knots, and she wants to attempt a shot at 800 meters. It's showboating, nothing more." Sarah had requested this demonstration after months of being dismissed by senior command. Her innovative approach to maritime security had been met with raised eyebrows and polite deflection. Traditional naval doctrine didn't include precision shooting from moving vessels, especially not by officers who looked like they belonged in a laboratory rather than on a gun range. The target bobbed violently in the distance, a small floating platform designed to simulate a hostile vessel. Maritime pirates had been increasingly bold in recent months, using fast boats to approach naval vessels before anyone could react. Sarah's proposal involved training naval personnel in precision shooting techniques that could neutralize threats from impossible distances, even under the most challenging conditions. "Ma'am, weather conditions are marginal," Petty Officer Martinez called out from the communications station. "Recommendation is to postpone until conditions improve." Sarah shook her head, her dark hair whipping in the wind. "Negative. Real threats don't wait for perfect weather." She had studied meteorological patterns for weeks, specifically choosing today because it represented the worst possible conditions they might encounter during actual operations. Admiral Wells descended from the observation deck, his expression growing more irritated with each step. "Lieutenant Commander Chun, this demonstration is unnecessary. We have established protocols for maritime threats. Helicopter support, destroyer escorts, automated defense systems. These are proven methods." "With respect, sir," Sarah replied, never taking her eyes off the target. "Those methods require time and positioning. Pirates adapt faster than our response protocols. By the time we scramble helicopter support, a fast boat can close distance and create a hostage situation." The Admiral's face reddened. "You're suggesting one person with a rifle can outperform an entire naval defense system?" "I'm suggesting adaptability, sir. When conventional methods fail, unconventional methods become necessary." Sarah's voice remained calm, professional, despite the obvious tension crackling between them. Captain Rodriguez stepped forward, trying to mediate. "Perhaps we could review the technical specifications first? Understanding the equipment modifications might help evaluate the feasibility." Sarah had spent 18 months developing her system. Standard naval rifles were useless in maritime conditions. The salt air corroded mechanisms, deck movement threw off accuracy, and traditional scopes couldn't adjust for the multiple variables affecting trajectory over water. Her modified rifle incorporated gyroscopic stabilization technology borrowed from missile guidance systems. The scope featured advanced ballistic computers that calculated wind speed, deck movement, target velocity, and atmospheric pressure in real time. Most importantly, she had developed a shooting technique that worked with ship movement rather than fighting against it. "The modifications are impressive," admitted Chief Petty Officer Hassan, the ship's weapons specialist. "But theoretical performance and practical application are different things, especially in these conditions." The deck rolled sharply to starboard as a larger wave passed beneath them. Sarah adjusted her stance, using the movement to her advantage rather than struggling against it. She had practiced this technique hundreds of times in simulators, but simulators couldn't replicate the psychological pressure of performing under skeptical observation. "This is insane," Admiral Wells declared loudly. "You'll never make that shot. The distance alone makes it impossible, never mind the conditions. I've seen expert marksmen fail at half this range in calm weather." Sarah's finger found the trigger guard. The target bobbed 830 meters away, barely visible through the spray and haze. Standard naval engagement protocols called for helicopter deployment at this range, which took a minimum of 4 minutes from alert to target acquisition. In 4 minutes, pirates could cover significant distance. Wind gusted across the deck, carrying the scent of diesel fuel and salt water. The ship's engines thrummed steadily beneath her feet, their vibration traveling through the deck, plating into her body. Most shooters would consider this interference, but Sarah had learned to use these vibrations as timing mechanisms. Target is moving northeast at approximately 12 knots, reported the range officer. Wind variable from 15 to 25 knots, gusting from the southwest. The ballistic computer in her scope processed thousands of calculations per second, displaying trajectory adjustments in real time. But technology could only do so much. The final decision, the moment of release, depended entirely on human judgment and timing. Admiral Wells continued his commentary. This is exactly the kind of reckless individualism that undermines unit cohesion. Naval operations require coordination, communication, established procedures, not some cowboy fantasy about impossible shots. Sarah breathed slowly, feeling the ship's rhythm through her body. Maritime shooting wasn't about fighting the ocean. It was about becoming part of it, reading the patterns, anticipating the movement. The target disappeared behind a wave crest, then reappeared as the swell passed. Her training had included study of historical naval engagements, particularly instances where unconventional tactics proved decisive. The Battle of Copenhagen, where Nelson ignored signals and attacked anyway. The engagement at Guadalcanal, where individual initiative overcame tactical disadvantages. Military history was filled with moments when someone did the impossible simply because it needed doing. Range 830 meters and increasing, called the spotter. Target maintaining northeast course, speed 12 knots. The shot window was narrowing. Wind conditions were worsening, and the target would soon move beyond effective range. Sarah's breathing slowed, her heart rate dropping into the zone she had practiced achieving through meditation and biofeedback training. Around her, the bridge crew watched in tense silence. Some clearly hoped she would succeed, having witnessed her dedication during training. Others remained skeptical, viewing this demonstration as dangerous grandstanding that could result in embarrassment for the entire command structure. Admiral Wells checked his watch impatiently. How much longer does this circus continue? We have actual operational responsibilities that require attention. Sir, if I may, interjected Lieutenant Powell, the ship's navigation officer. Commander Chin's proposal addresses a legitimate tactical gap. Fast boat attacks have increased 40% in this operational area over the past 6 months. Current response protocols average 5.3 minutes from detection to engagement. That's sufficient time for hostiles to close distance and create complex tactical situations. The Admiral glared at Powell. Are you suggesting our current defensive capabilities are inadequate, Lieutenant? I'm suggesting that tactical evolution requires constant adaptation, sir. The enemy adapts, so we must adapt faster. Sarah appreciated the support, but couldn't afford distraction. The target had moved to 840 meters, near the edge of her effective range. Atmospheric conditions were creating heat shimmer that made precise target identification difficult. Through her scope, she could see the target clearly, a rectangular platform approximately 2 meters by 3 meters, painted bright orange for visibility. In a real engagement, the target would be smaller, moving faster, and possibly returning fire. But this demonstration was about proving capability under controlled conditions. Final wind reading 22 knots, gusting to 28, reported the meteorological station. Recommend postponement due to deteriorating conditions. Negative, Sarah replied firmly. Real threats don't postpone due to weather. The ship crested a particularly large swell, causing the deck to tilt at nearly 20 degrees. Sarah adjusted her position, using the angle to improve her shooting stance. Traditional marksmanship training emphasized static positions and controlled environments. Maritime shooting required dynamic adaptation and improvisation. Admiral Wells stepped closer, his voice dropping to a harsh whisper. You're about to embarrass yourself and this entire command. When you miss, and you will miss, It reflects on everyone who authorized this demonstration. Is your ego worth that? Sarah's grip tightened slightly on the rifle stock. Sir, this isn't about ego. It's about capabilities. About giving our people tools they might need to save lives. Tools? This is a stunt, Commander. Nothing more. The target reached maximum range, 850 meters, and still moving. Sarah's window of opportunity was closing rapidly. Beyond 900 meters, even her modified equipment couldn't compensate for all the variables affecting trajectory. She settled into her final shooting position, feeling the ship's rhythm through her entire body. The deck rose and fell with oceanic swells, each movement predictable once you learned to read the patterns. The target bobbed in and out of view, appearing and disappearing behind wave crests with metronomic regularity. 860 meters, called the range officer. Target approaching maximum effective range. Sarah's breathing synchronized with the ship's movement, her heartbeat steady and controlled. Around her, conversation stopped. Even Admiral Wells fell silent, watching intently despite his skepticism. The scope's ballistic computer displayed final calculations, trajectory adjustment for wind, compensation for deck movement, target velocity prediction. But the computer couldn't account for intuition, for the subtle understanding that came from thousands of hours of practice. Through the scope, Sarah could see individual details on the target platform. A small flag attached to one corner whipped frantically in the wind. Spray from wave impacts created temporary obscuration. The platform rose and fell with oceanic rhythm, following predictable patterns that could be anticipated with careful observation. This is it, she whispered to herself, finger moving from trigger guard to trigger. Everything you've trained for. The ship began its descent into the trough between two large swells. In approximately 3 seconds, it would reach the optimal firing angle. The target would be visible, wind conditions would stabilize momentarily, and all variables would align for a brief, perfect window. Admiral Wells opened his mouth to make another disparaging comment, but the words died in his throat as he watched Sarah's complete focus. Whatever his opinion of her methods, her dedication was undeniable. The deck rolled smoothly through the wave trough, exactly as Sarah had anticipated. The target appeared clearly through her scope, momentarily stable as both vessels found themselves in synchronized ocean rhythm. Her finger applied steady pressure to the trigger, following through with the smooth, controlled motion that had become automatic after thousands of practice rounds. The rifle fired, its report echoing across the water and mixing with the sound of wind and waves. Everyone on deck strained their eyes toward the distant target, but at 860 meters, visual confirmation would take several seconds. Sarah kept her scope trained on the target area, watching for impact indicators. Shot away, she reported calmly, though her heart raced with anticipation. This single shot would either validate months of development work or confirm Admiral Wells' skepticism about her entire approach. The bullet traveled through salt air and wind, following a trajectory calculated by advanced computers, but executed through human skill and determination. In the distance, the orange target platform continued bobbing on Mediterranean swells, unaware that its fate had already been decided. The seconds stretched endlessly as everyone on deck strained to see the result of Sarah's shot. At 860 meters, visual confirmation required patience that felt impossible under the circumstances. Admiral Wells stood with his arms crossed, clearly expecting to deliver a lecture about the dangers of overconfidence once the inevitable miss became apparent. Impact in 3, 2, 1, counted Lieutenant Powell, calculating bullet travel time based on range and atmospheric conditions. Through her scope, Sarah watched the target platform with laser focus. Suddenly, a small puff of debris erupted from the center of the orange rectangle, followed immediately by the platform's slight shift in position as the bullet's kinetic energy transferred through the structure. Target hit, called Chief Petty Officer Hassan from the spotting station. Dead center impact, target compromised. A collective gasp ran through the assembled crew members. Several junior officers began cheering, but quickly composed themselves when they noticed Admiral Wells' thunderous expression. Confirm that hit, the Admiral ordered sharply. I want visual verification and impact assessment. The range officer raised his binoculars, scanning the target area carefully. Confirmed hit, sir. Clean entry hole visible in the center of the target platform. Target integrity compromised, beginning to list to starboard due to structural damage. Sarah lowered her rifle, hands steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her system. Around her, the bridge crew exchanged amazed glances. Making that shot under perfect conditions would have been impressive. Accomplishing it in heavy seas with a rolling deck seemed almost supernatural. Admiral Wells remained silent for a long moment, his weathered face unreadable. Finally, he stepped forward, accepting the binoculars from his aide to examine the target himself. The orange platform was clearly visible, with a dark hole punched through its center and water beginning to lap over its edges. Impossible, he muttered under his breath. Then, louder, this changes nothing. One lucky shot doesn't validate an entire tactical philosophy. Sarah bit back her initial response. She had anticipated this reaction. Military hierarchy didn't change easily, especially when challenged by unconventional methods. Instead, she focused on documenting the demonstration's technical aspects. Sir, if I may present the ballistic data? She gestured toward the laptop computer connected to her rifle's guidance system. Every variable was recorded in real time, including atmospheric conditions, deck movement parameters, and trajectory calculations. Captain Rodriguez moved closer to examine the data display. As the ship's weapons specialist, he understood the technical complexity involved in the shot Sarah had just completed. These calculations are remarkable. The computer processed over 2,000 variables in real time. The computer handled data processing, but execution required human judgment, Sarah explained. Technology assists, but cannot replace understanding of maritime conditions and timing. Lieutenant Powell approached with additional confirmation. Sir, I've been monitoring the target's GPS beacon. Impact occurred exactly where the ballistic computer predicted, with less than 15 centimeters deviation from calculated point of impact. Admiral Wells set down the binoculars, his expression growing more troubled. Even assuming this wasn't luck, which I'm not prepared to admit, what practical application does this have? Naval operations require coordinated response, not individual heroics. Sir, respectfully, I disagree. Sarah kept her voice professional despite her growing frustration. Individual capabilities enhance unit effectiveness. Consider Lieutenant Commander Torres' rescue operation off Somalia last year. When helicopter support was unavailable due to weather, individual initiative saved 17 hostages. That was different, the Admiral replied curtly. Torres used established rescue protocols adapted to unusual circumstances. You're proposing to reinvent maritime defense doctrine based on marksmanship stunts. Chief Petty Officer Hassan cleared his throat diplomatically. Admiral, if I may, Commander Chin's modifications could enhance existing protocols rather than replacing them. Maritime threats have evolved significantly in recent years. The Admiral glared at Hassan. Are you questioning current defensive capabilities, Chief? No, sir, but I am observing tactical evolution. Pirates now use faster boats, better coordination, and more sophisticated equipment. Our response times haven't improved correspondingly. Sarah recognized an opportunity to shift the conversation toward practical applications. Sir, my proposal doesn't eliminate existing protocols. It adds capability for situations where conventional response is insufficient or impossible. Explain, the Admiral said grudgingly. Last month's incident near Gibraltar provides an excellent example, Sarah continued. Pirates approached the merchant vessel Constellation using multiple fast boats during heavy weather. Helicopter support couldn't deploy due to crosswinds, and destroyer escort was 12 minutes away. The pirates had 8 minutes of unopposed access. The situation resolved without casualties, Admiral Wells pointed out. Through luck, sir. The pirates' equipment failed, not because our response was effective. Next time, we might not be fortunate. Lieutenant Powell accessed incident reports on his tablet. Actually, sir, we've documented 17 similar situations in the past 8 months. Weather conditions, equipment failures, or tactical positioning prevented timely response in each case. The Admiral studied the data, his expression thoughtful despite his obvious reluctance to accept Sarah's arguments. These incidents occurred across multiple operational theaters. Are you suggesting every naval vessel should carry specialized marksmen? I'm suggesting we train existing personnel in enhanced capabilities, Sarah replied. Most naval personnel already possess basic marksmanship skills. Additional training could prepare them for situations where conventional response is inadequate. Captain Rodriguez examined the rifle's modification specifications on Sarah's laptop. The equipment requirements are substantial. Custom scopes, ballistic computers, stabilization systems, implementation costs would be significant. Less expensive than losing personnel or vessels due to inadequate response capabilities, Sarah countered. Additionally, the technology has applications beyond maritime defense. Port security, coastal patrol, anti-terrorism operations, all could benefit from enhanced precision capabilities. Admiral Wells walked to the ship's railing, staring out at the Mediterranean horizon. The target platform had disappeared completely, sunk by the damage from Sarah's shot. Around them, normal ship operations continued, but the bridge crew remained unusually quiet. Commander Chun, the Admiral said finally, your demonstration was impressive. However, military doctrine isn't built on impressive demonstrations. It's built on consistent, reliable performance under all conditions. Which is exactly what I'm offering, sir, Sarah replied firmly. Consistent performance through proper training and equipment. You made one shot, under favorable conditions. Favorable? Sarah interrupted, then caught herself. Sir, with respect, winds were gusting to 28 knots, deck was rolling at 20 degrees, and atmospheric visibility was marginal. These were hardly favorable conditions. Chief Petty Officer Hassan supported her assessment. Sir, range conditions were definitely challenging. Most expert marksmen would consider them prohibitive for precision work. The Admiral turned back toward the group, his expression unreadable. Assuming your methods have merit, which I'm not conceding, how do you propose implementation? Training programs, equipment procurement, tactical integration. These changes require substantial institutional support. Sarah had prepared for this question extensively. Sir, I've developed a comprehensive implementation plan. Initial training could begin with volunteer personnel from ships already deploying to high-risk areas. Equipment modifications use existing technology, requiring minimal procurement delays. Tactical integration follows established special operations models. Special operations, the Admiral repeated skeptically. Commander, this is the Navy, not some elite commando unit. Sir, special operations principles apply to any situation requiring exceptional performance, Sarah replied. Adaptability, innovative thinking, individual initiative. These qualities enhance any military unit. Lieutenant Powell accessed deployment schedules on his communication device. Sir, the USS Constitution deploys to the Gulf of Aden next month. Pirates have been particularly active in that region recently. It could provide an ideal testing environment for Commander Chin's methods. Absolutely not, Admiral Wells said immediately. I won't risk personnel safety on unproven techniques. Sir, current techniques haven't prevented piracy incidents, Sarah pointed out. 7 vessels have been attacked in the Gulf of Aden this month alone. 3 resulted in hostage situations requiring complex rescue operations. Captain Rodriguez looked up from his review of Sarah's technical documentation. The equipment modifications are actually quite conservative. Most components are already used in other naval applications. Integration risk appears minimal. Risk assessment isn't just about equipment, the Admiral replied. Training unconventional techniques requires time and resources. Personnel who should be focusing on established procedures get distracted by experimental methods. Sarah felt her patience beginning to fray, but maintained professional composure. Sir, military history demonstrates that tactical innovation often determines success or failure. Rigid adherence to established doctrine without adaptation leads to obsolescence. Are you suggesting current naval doctrine is obsolete, Commander? I'm suggesting it requires enhancement to address evolving threats, sir. The Admiral studied her for a long moment. Around them, normal ship operations continued, but the bridge crew remained focused on their conversation. Sarah could see uncertainty in several faces. Her demonstration had clearly impressed them, but challenging established authority made everyone uncomfortable. Commander Chun, Admiral Wells said finally, your technical skills are obviously exceptional. However, the Navy operates as a coordinated unit, not a collection of individual specialists pursuing personal theories about tactical innovation. Sir, individual excellence enhances unit capability, Sarah replied. It doesn't replace coordination. It enables more effective coordination. That's a nice theory. But theories and reality often diverge in military operations. Sarah realized the Admiral wasn't going to be convinced through logical argument alone. Military leadership required more than technical competence. It required understanding of institutional culture, political considerations, and the complex balance between innovation and tradition. Sir, would you consider a limited trial period? She asked. 3 months, single ship deployment, minimal resource commitment. If results don't justify the investment, we discontinue the program. Admiral Wells stared at her intently. You're asking me to authorize experimental techniques in an active operational theater. The liability implications alone. Sir, liability exists in maintaining inadequate capabilities as much as in testing new ones, Sarah countered. Every month we delay adaptation. Threats become more sophisticated. Chief Petty Officer Hassan stepped forward diplomatically. Admiral, if I may suggest, Commander Chin's methods could be evaluated through controlled exercises initially. Low-risk environment, comprehensive documentation, thorough analysis before any operational deployment. The Admiral considered this suggestion. Controlled exercises eliminate the stress factors that determine real-world performance. Combat effectiveness can't be predicted from training results alone. Sarah recognized an opening. Sir, that's exactly why gradual implementation makes sense. Begin with exercises, progress to limited operational testing. Expand based on documented results. Scientific method applied to tactical development. Scientific method, the Admiral repeated thoughtfully. Commander, the military isn't a research laboratory. No, sir, but effective militaries use research principles to maintain competitive advantage, Sarah replied. Otherwise, we become obsolete while enemies adapt and improve. The conversation was interrupted by an alert from the communications station. Bridge, we're receiving distress signal from civilian vessel approximately 40 nautical miles southeast. Possible pirate attack in progress. Admiral Wells immediately shifted into operational mode. Alert condition 2, prepare helicopter deployment, notify escort vessels. He turned towards Sarah with a sardonic expression. Perfect timing, Commander. Real situation, actual pirates, genuine emergency. Care to demonstrate your methods under authentic conditions? Sarah's heart raced as the reality of the situation sank in. The Admiral's challenge wasn't theoretical anymore. Lives were at stake, and her untested methods might be the difference between successful rescue and disaster. Sir, helicopter deployment will take 12 minutes in current weather conditions, reported Lieutenant Powell from the communications station. Coast Guard assets are 45 minutes out. Local naval support is unavailable due to maintenance requirements. Admiral Wells studied the tactical display showing the distressed vessel's position. What's the nature of the emergency? Merchant vessel Morningstar reports 3 fast boats approaching at high speed. Captain believes it's coordinated pirate attack. Vessel carries minimal defensive capability and has 23 crew members aboard. The Admiral's expression grew grim. Recent pirate attacks had become increasingly violent, with hostage-taking becoming standard procedure rather than simple theft. The Morningstar's crew faced serious danger if conventional response proved inadequate. Maximum speed to intercept, he ordered. Alert helicopter crews for immediate deployment once we're within operational range. Sarah stepped forward. Sir, request permission to assist with defensive preparations. Commander, this is an active emergency situation, not a training exercise, the Admiral replied sharply. I won't risk civilian lives on experimental techniques. Sir, with respect, my techniques could provide defensive capability during the response gap, Sarah insisted. If pirates reach the Morningstar before helicopter deployment. Captain Rodriguez interrupted with updated intelligence. Sir, we're receiving additional details from the Morningstar. Pirates are using 3 high-speed boats, approaching from different angles. Classic coordinated attack pattern designed to overwhelm defensive response. Admiral Wells studied the tactical situation, calculating response times and defensive options. Even at maximum speed, They wouldn't reach the Morning Star for 35 minutes. Helicopter deployment required 28 minutes minimum, assuming weather conditions didn't deteriorate further. Sir, Lieutenant Powell called from his station. Morning Star reports pirates have closed to within 1 nautical mile. They're demanding the vessel stop engines and prepare for boarding. The bridge fell silent except for the sound of wind and waves. Everyone understood the implications. Once pirates boarded the Morning Star, the situation would become exponentially more complex. Hostage rescue operations required specialized teams, extensive coordination, and often resulted in casualties. Helicopter crews report readiness in 15 minutes, announced the air operations officer. Weather conditions are marginal, but within operational limits. Sarah watched the Admiral wrestle with his decision. Military leadership required balancing calculated risks against potential consequences. Authorizing her involvement meant accepting responsibility for whatever resulted from unconventional methods. Commander Chun, he said finally, explain exactly what assistance you're proposing. Sir, precision fire from extended range could discourage pirate approach without creating hostage situation, Sarah replied quickly. Disable their boats, force them to break off attack, by time for helicopter deployment and rescue operations. Disable boats from 30 nautical miles. Commander, even your demonstration shot was under 1 nautical mile. Sir, this situation requires closer approach. I'm proposing coordinated tactics. Use our speed advantage to close distance rapidly while pirates are focused on the Morning Star. Establish firing position. Engage targets before they complete boarding operations. Captain Rodriguez examined the tactical display. It's possible. Current approach angle would bring us to within 2 nautical miles of the engagement area. Pirates typically focus entirely on target vessel during initial boarding phase. Admiral Wells stared at the display, calculating options. 2 nautical miles is still extreme range for precision fire, especially with moving targets. Sir, my equipment modifications specifically address moving target engagement, Sarah replied. The ballistic computer can track multiple targets simultaneously, predicting movement patterns and calculating optimal engagement sequences. Morning Star reports pirates have closed to 500 meters, Lieutenant Powell announced. Captain is requesting immediate assistance. The Admiral's jaw tightened. Standard procedures called for avoiding direct engagement until helicopter support arrived. But standard procedures weren't designed for situations where civilian lives hung in the balance during extended response delays. Chief Hassan, he called, prepare defensive stations. All personnel to alert positions. Sarah recognized this as partial authorization. Sir, request permission to establish overwatch position. Commander, if I authorize this. And that's still a significant if. You operate under strict tactical control. No independent action, no engagement without explicit authorization. Understood, sir. Morning Star reports pirates are alongside. Came the urgent update from communications. Boarding appears imminent. Admiral Wells made his decision. Commander Chun, establish overwatch position. Observe and report only until further authorization. Sarah moved quickly to the optimal firing position on the forward deck, her modified rifle and support equipment already prepared from the earlier demonstration. The tactical situation was dramatically different now. Multiple moving targets, innocent civilians at risk, and the possibility that her actions could escalate rather than resolve the crisis. Through her scope, she could see the Morning Star in the distance, its white hull clearly visible against the blue Mediterranean waters. 3 smaller dark shapes moved around it like predators circling prey. Range to target approximately 3,000 meters and closing, she reported through her tactical radio. Visual confirmation of 3 hostile boats, estimated length 8 to 10 meters each. Roger, overwatch. Observe and report, came Admiral Wells' terse reply. The ballistic computer in Sarah's scope immediately began tracking the 3 pirate boats, analyzing their movement patterns and calculating engagement solutions. The technology was designed for exactly this type of dynamic situation, but had never been tested under actual combat conditions. Pirates have secured alongside Morning Star, she observed. Personnel visible on deck. Appears to be boarding operation in progress. Sarah adjusted her scope settings, bringing the distant scene into sharp focus. She could see individual figures moving between the boats and the merchant vessel, some carrying visible weapons. The Morning Star's crew appeared to be gathered on the forward deck under guard. Hostage situation confirmed, she reported. Approximately 8 armed individuals visible, civilian crew under apparent control. Admiral Wells' voice crackled through the radio. Maintain observation. Helicopter deployment in 12 minutes. Through her scope, Sarah watched the scene develop with growing tension. Pirates were systematically searching the Morning Star, probably looking for valuable cargo or ransom-worthy passengers. This type of operation typically lasted 20 to 30 minutes before the attackers departed with their prizes. Sir, pirates appear to be preparing for departure, she reported. 2 boats are loading personnel and equipment from the merchant vessel. Negative engagement authorization. Admiral Wells replied immediately. Wait for helicopter support. Sarah understood the Admiral's caution, but could see the tactical situation deteriorating rapidly. Once pirates departed with hostages, rescue became exponentially more difficult. Their boats were faster than helicopters and could disappear into dozens of coastal hideouts before pursuit could be organized. Sir, recommend immediate engagement, she transmitted. Targets are stationary during loading operations. Optimal conditions for precision fire. Negative overwatch. Maintain observation only. Sarah watched helplessly as pirates completed their loading operations. Several Morning Star crew members were being transferred to the pirate boats, hostages to ensure cooperation and complicate any rescue attempts. The lead pirate boat began moving away from the Morning Star, followed by the second vessel. The third boat remained alongside, apparently completing final cargo transfer. This was the critical moment. Once all 3 boats departed, the hostages would be scattered across multiple vessels, making rescue nearly impossible. Sir, targets are beginning dispersal, Sarah reported urgently. Window for engagement closing rapidly. Maintain observation, Admiral Wells repeated firmly. Sarah's training screamed at her to act. Every instinct told her this was the moment to engage, while targets were still concentrated and civilian casualties could be minimized. But military discipline required following orders, even when personal judgment suggested different action. The tactical situation changed suddenly when one of the Morning Star crew members broke free from his captors and jumped overboard. Pirates immediately began firing into the water, trying to prevent his escape. Shots fired. Civilian in water, Sarah reported. Pirates engaging escaped hostage. Through her scope, she could see muzzle flashes from pirate weapons as they fired at the swimming crew member. The man was approximately 50 meters from the Morning Star, desperately trying to reach the safety of his ship. Sir, request immediate engagement authorization, Sarah transmitted. Civilian under fire, immediate threat to life. Helicopter deployment in 8 minutes, Admiral Wells replied. Maintain position. Sarah watched the swimming crew member disappear beneath the waves, either struck by gunfire or diving to avoid it. Pirates continued firing into the water around his last known position, clearly determined to prevent any escape. The tactical equation had changed completely. This was no longer a potential hostage situation. It was active attempted murder of unarmed civilians. Rules of engagement authorized immediate intervention when civilian lives faced imminent threat. Sir, I have clear shot on lead boat, Sarah transmitted. Requesting permission to engage. Negative. Maintain observation. Sarah's finger moved to her trigger as she watched pirates continue firing into the water. Through her scope, she could see the swimming crew member surface briefly, gasping for air before diving again to avoid gunfire. The ballistic computer displayed firing solutions for all 3 pirate boats. Range was extended but manageable, atmospheric conditions were stable, and target movement was predictable. More importantly, the escaped crew member would certainly die without immediate intervention. Military training emphasized following orders, but also emphasized protecting innocent life when immediate action could make the difference. Sarah found herself facing the eternal soldier's dilemma: obey orders or act on moral imperative. She made her choice. The rifle fired, its report echoing across the water as the bullet streaked toward its target at over 2,000 feet per second. Through her scope, Sarah watched the projectile impact the lead pirate boat's engine compartment, creating a spectacular explosion as fuel ignited. Overwatch, report status. Admiral Wells' voice crackled angrily through the radio. Engaging hostile targets, Sarah replied calmly, already tracking the second boat. Civilian rescue in progress. The second shot disabled the nearest pirate boat's steering mechanism, sending it into an uncontrolled circle. Pirates aboard both damaged vessels were shouting frantically, trying to understand what had happened. Overwatch, cease fire immediately, Admiral Wells ordered. Sir, civilians still under fire, Sarah replied, tracking the third boat. Continuing engagement. Her third shot struck the final pirate boat's hull below the waterline, creating a significant breach. The vessel began taking on water immediately, forcing its occupants to focus on survival rather than continuing their attack on the swimming crew member. Within minutes, all 3 pirate boats were disabled or sinking. Their crews were too busy with emergency procedures to threaten anyone. The escaped crew member had reached the Morning Star's ladder and was being pulled aboard by his shipmates. Hostile boats neutralized, Sarah reported. All civilians appear safe. Admiral Wells' voice when he responded was ice cold. Commander Chun, report to the bridge immediately. Sarah secured her rifle and made her way back to the bridge, knowing she faced serious consequences for disobeying direct orders. But, as she walked, she could see the Morning Star's crew waving gratefully in their direction, alive because someone had chosen action over procedure. The Admiral was waiting when she arrived, his face thunderous. Commander, you directly disobeyed explicit orders. Explain yourself. Sir, civilian life was in immediate danger. Rules of engagement authorize independent action when immediate intervention can prevent loss of life. You endangered civilian hostages by escalating the situation. Sir, pirates were already attempting to kill an escaped civilian. I prevented murder, not escalated a peaceful situation. Captain Rodriguez approached with an update. Sir, helicopter crews report successful rescue of all Morning Star personnel. No casualties among civilians or pirates. 3 pirate boats disabled, but crews rescued by search and rescue teams. Admiral Wells stared at Sarah for a long moment. Around them, the bridge crew tried to appear busy while obviously listening to every word. Commander Chun, he said finally, your marksmanship was exceptional. Your judgment was questionable. Your disobedience was inexcusable. Sarah stood at attention. Yes, sir. However, the Admiral continued slowly. The results speak for themselves. 17 civilian lives saved, pirates captured rather than killed, no collateral damage, mission accomplished. He walked to the ship's communication station and picked up the radio handset. This is Admiral Wells to Fleet Command. Recommend immediate evaluation of enhanced maritime defense protocols developed by Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chun. Operational testing has produced exceptional results under actual combat conditions. Sarah blinked in surprise. Sir, Admiral Wells turned back toward her with the faintest hint of a smile. Commander, never disobey my orders again. But, if you do, make sure you're right. He paused, then added, you were right. This time. The bridge crew erupted in subdued cheers as news of the successful rescue spread throughout the ship. Sarah had proven her methods worked under the ultimate test, real combat conditions with lives at stake. But, more importantly, she had proven that sometimes being right required the courage to act when action mattered more than approval.